Frieren is amazing because it took a strongest point, which is closed cast that led to strong intimacy, then threw it out the window for the second half in favor of a choral story and ensemble cast, and absolutely effing nailed to a degree that my favorite character in the end was I don't disagree that Frieren threw away its small cast. Well, I do actually. It didn't throw it away, obviously. It expanded it, right? I see it as building an incredibly strong foundation, then building off from there. Because JJK did this too, to a degree, right? To a larger scale degree. It included a lot of people as early as the second half of season 2. But one thing I really like about the opening, about Aizo, is that it feels like its whole purpose is to overwhelm you, right? It's overstimulating. That's why it's so exciting. It's so hype. There's so many scenes just flashing through things. And there's so many freaking characters you've never met. It's clearly intentional, right? It's clearly meant to overwhelm you. The Culling game introduces so many new people. Most anime would just not include these people. Some of these are probably going to be like episodic characters. But it shows them because the point of Aizo, at least as I see it, is to overwhelm you with this expanding world. Because after season 2, the world is expanding, right? Season 3, we are expanding from Tokyo to like all of Japan. This overstimulation is the point. Meanwhile, with Frieren, it has a much smaller cast. It's building out this foundation, and now it's expanding, right? In the second half of season 1, it's expanding to include more characters, to expand the world, because it's built that strong foundation. It's not throwing them away. It's using their strength to build things on top of it. And I love that. That's great. It's such a great way to do a story. The alternative is something like Assassination Classroom or My Hero Academia. My Hero Academia also still builds out a strong foundation with the first like 2 or 3 episodes, but then introduces all of Class 1A. And to a lot of people, it's overwhelming, right? I think it handles it really well personally, but it is a fair critique that MHA throws too many characters at you too fast. That is a fair critique and is a valid way of telling your story, right? It's perfectly valid to introduce a bunch of characters and then build them all as the story goes on. An even better example, like I said before, is Assassination Classroom. If you haven't seen it, for the love of everything, please watch it. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. But it introduces a lot of characters and then it builds them out as a group, right? And as individuals. And I love that. It's no less of a valid way of doing it. And the criticism that, oh, it's too many characters is also valid, which is why I like shows like Frieren, JJK that build out that base and then build out from it. It's a very reliable way because people will complain that you've introduced too many characters early in your story. Far fewer people will say you don't have enough characters. Your cast is too small. Most people like small casts because it's easy to get attached to them. So it is the much safer way of building out a good story with a lot of characters. And I can deal with your second comment. It's clearly not a criticism of Frieren because you're saying it absolutely effing nailed it to a degree that like, and I believe it. It's not a criticism, right? It's just a point that it built out its cast and then threw them away. And then it built something out better and it did really well because that's Frieren, right? It has an episodic storyline and then it creates longer running arcs and nails them. So you think the show's greatest strength is an episodic nature, and then it goes out and hits a home run with its longer arcs. Frieren is the King Midas of anime. Everything it touches turns to gold. So I can't wait to see what it touches in the future. Exactly, Sumno. Narrowing your pool of characters is a great way to keep the story tight and to keep the audience invested in your characters. Easier to keep track of what's happening in the story. Yeah, exactly. I do enjoy how JJK does the opposite, letting the themes give you the picture of who someone is. It builds out these characters, but rather than focusing on the characters, it focuses on themes, and the characters represent themes, right? So you build out the character through the theme is exploring. It's the opposite of how things often go, but it does really well with it, honestly. Even a slight amount of screen time is enough to understand what the character symbolizes, makes them so instantly likable. Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of exaggerating with Frieren, fair enough, but the fact that the author could go from writing their core trio so well to suddenly writing about more than a dozen characters without losing any momentum or deepness. Yeah, it's really good. Both Gege and Frieren's author, who now I need to learn their name because I'm really bad with names. They're both incredible writers, you can tell. Certainly a lot of why the shows are so good are more than the author. They're because of all the staff that works in them, like the director, the animators, all that stuff. They all come together to create these masterpieces, right? Just like how people keep insisting that the value of my channel is built from the commenters, but only exists because of me. People insist that, even though I don't believe them. The same thing goes with these writers, right? Manga are not responsible for this masterpiece of a show. However, they are the reason for it. If it were not for their brilliance, we would not have the show, plain and simple. So they deserve a lot of the credit, even if they don't deserve all of it. And they shouldn't deserve it, right? Because then we're downplaying all the other people who played such a big role in it. But yeah, they're really good writers, and we really should recognize that. And I think a lot of people do, and that's good. They should, right? They deserve it. With JJK and Frieren, if I were to like put a value on my content, I would say my JJK is more valuable simply because there are less people willing to engage critically with a show like JJK. So I think my reactions have more to say there. More people would talk about what's in Frieren because it's a much more like openly discussion worthy show. So I would say my JJK reactions are more valuable than Frieren. However, I think in the actual quality of the analyses, Frieren is obviously better, right? Just because there's so much to talk about. There's so many topics that are brought up. It's perfect for my reactions. So if I had to like get rid of one of the series or the other, I would get rid of Frieren. But Frieren just does lead to better discussions because of course it does, right? It's that kind of show. What do you think the main themes of JJK are, Max? To me, they are responsibility, negativity, and loneliness. Yeah. I mean, there's so many, right? Alex said ego, personal freedom, all this stuff. It's hard to put a finger on what the main themes are, but there's so many, right? There's so many themes. It's really, really intricate. Gege is a very interesting writer. He doesn't explain much, right? He has incredibly tight storytelling and incredibly tight dialogue. Sometimes so tight that it's easy to miss stuff. It's easy to, if you don't think about things too much, it's easy for them to fly over your head. But it's still there. All the, like, if you do break it down, as I do and as a lot of you clearly do, the more you look, the more you find, right? You find that he's done his homework. There's so many themes to it, but for me personally, I think the value of a life, the essence of a death, and cynicism in and of itself, like what people thrive in this world. Those are for me the three like main themes of JJK. And like I guess the first two are kind of like two sides of the same coin, but what people deserve to be in this world and what value lives have, I think those are big, really important themes that other themes really just build off of. Delving deeper into the cultural metaphors and symbolism will yield an even richer story. Of course, that's Alex saying that because, I mean, he's right? You are our local culture expert. We've seen from your comments just how much a richer of experience it is when you really engage with it. Even where they express themselves as subtext of characterization, yeah, Gege is a really good writer, but he doesn't like to make it obvious. So you really gotta like get in the weeds to see just how good of a writer he is. Some known, you can see Yuji's mental state by how he's fighting. Yeah, another great thing about his writing. Any good shonen writer worth their salt knows that your fights are a part of the story, right? The way your fights play out and the way your characters interact in the fight should reflect the character and their interaction. The fight should be a representation of their interaction. It should basically be dialogue, bloody dialogue. Gege handles that expertly because he's a really good writer. The ridiculous amount of subtext is lost for most. It's easy to follow without understanding the themes, but it seems shallow without them. Some known, exactly. That is JJK in one sentence, I would say.